Hello everyone, our topic is all about the Spanish era. But first is the objectives. You can take screenshots if you want. Spain had 3 objectives. First is to acquire a share in the spice trade. It means to gain ownership or involvement in the business of buying and selling spices. Second is to develop contacts with China and Japan in order to further Christian missionary efforts there. It means build connections in China and Japan to spread Christianity and support missionary activities. Like for example, establishing relationships, spreading Christian teachings and beliefs, building connections, and encouraging cultural exchanges to facilitate the spread of Christianity. Lastly is to convert the Filipinos to Christianity. Spanish colonizers introduced Christianity to Filipinos through missionaries and churches. This is the reason why most of the Filipinos are so devoted to their religions. Let's proceed to the abstraction. Because of searching new lands, there has 3 results of worldwide exploration and expansion. First is desire to gain new lands. Spaniards aim to expand their territories to increase their influence and prestige. By claiming new lands, Spain established colonies in regions like the Americas and the Philippines, spreading their culture and control. Second is power. Colonial expansion strengthened Spain's position as a dominant global power. They established strongholds such as New Spain or modern-day Mexico and Peru, which enhanced their political and military influence. Third is wealth for explorers and their countries. Explorers sought gold, spices, and other valuable resources to enrich themselves in Spain. The discovery of vast silver deposits in Potosi, or modern Bolivia, significantly boosted Spain's economy and financed its empire. In 1453, the Ottoman Turks conquered Constantinople, cutting off key trade routes between Europe and Asia, closed the former trade routes to the east. The Ottoman Empire restricted or controlled overload trade routes, making it difficult and expensive for European merchants to access Asian goods, causing the monarchs and navigators of Europe to find new routes across the seas. Portuguese navigators who sailed to reach down the east. First is Bartolomeo Diaz, Cape of Good Hope in 1488. Bartolomeo Diaz became the first European to sail around the southern tip of Africa. The Cape of Good Hope, proving a sea route to Asia was possible. Second is Vasco da Gama, Calicut, India in 1498. Vasco da Gama successfully reached Calicut, India, establishing a direct sea route from Europe to Asia. Thirdly is Christopher Columbus, proposed reaching Asia by sailing west, but King John II of Portugal rejected his plan considering it too risky. He was able to get the support of the Spanish crown. Columbus later convinced Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand of Spain to sponsor his voyage, leading to his discovery of the Americas in 1492.
Portugal and Spain became rivals in colonizing lands because of the gold, spices, other merchandise found in the Orient, and the religious zeal to proselytize natives. Papal Bull on Tercetera was settled by Pope Alexander VI to settle rivalry on May 3, 1493. So, Papal Bull or Tercetera, the name of an official decree from the Catholic Church. Spanish zone west of the imaginary line drawn NS and 100 leagues west of all Azores and Cape Verde Island. Portugal zone all the lands east of demarcation line. Treaty of Tordesillas, so both kingdoms is nag-agree siya to move the demarcation line in 370 leagues, and then sa west of Cape Verde Island is naka-still pud na siya o kanang nagaguide pud siya by the provisions of the Papal Bull. Ferdinand Magellan is member of nobility of Portugal, sailed with a fleet carrying the first Portuguese, and then sa East Andes and descent to Malacca in Malay Peninsula and the spice markets of Ambon and Banda in western Malaysia. And then kani po si Ferdinand Magellan is na-promote po ni siya into the rank of a captain. Astrolabe used in all explorations done by the latitude sailing. Moluccas or Spice Islands, reached by the Magellan after he discovered the idea of passage to west around South Africa. So, in March 8, 1518, his contract siya of expedition was signed in Magellan was named Captain General of Expedition. Magellan's new route to the east, 5 ships that left Spain together with Magellan. So, ang kaning east 5 ships is nakapangalan siya og Trinidad, Santiago, Victoria, Concepcion, and si San Antonio. So, mo ni ang kauban ni Magellan nga nilive sa Spain. So now let's talk about the voyage to the Philippines. So first si Islas de San Lazaro. So they saw the towering heights of Samar on March 6, 1521. So bali nakita daw niya ang kaning tower heights sa Samar katong March 16, 1521. Raha Colombo, the first refused to welcome Magellan but soon welcomed the Europeans. Kasi-kasi, blood compact ceremony performed by Raha Colombo and Magellan. So, meaning aning kasi-kasi is friend or kaibigan. So, kani si Raha Colombo and Magellan is mag-amigo. Barangay Magallanes, Limasawa, Southern Leyte, the site of the first Christian Mass in the Philippines. So, muna siya ang first Christian Mass sa Pilipinas. Gian Batista Ramosio sa Butuan. So, kani siya is kaning was an Italian geographer and travel writer. Antonio de Herrera Masawa is a Spanish chronicler who is significant in the context of Masawa. See Antonio de Herrera. Father Colin Limasawa. Limasawa, also known as the birthplace of Christianity in the country. So, kaning Limasawa is gamay ni siya nga island sa Southern Leyte nga nadito sila Magellan ug iya ang mga crew celebrate then the first Roman Catholic Mass in the Philippines in 1521.
Lapu-Lapu was a chieftain of Mactan who famously led his warriors against Ferdinand Magellan in the Battle of Mactan in 1521. His real name was Kali-Pulaco. The name Lapu-Lapu is one of the most widely recognized in the Philippine history. Lapu-Lapu refused to submit to the new political system and pay tribute to the Spaniards because he wanted to protect his people's sovereignty and independence. Poisoned arrow and bamboo spear hits Magellan right leg and struck his face. He was hit by a poisoned arrow which weakened him. The native used bamboo spears and kampelan or native swords to attack. He was struck in the leg, making it difficult for him to move. Finally, a heavy blow to his face, it is possibly from a kampelan or another weapon, led to his downfall. Battle of Mactan. A scandalous defeat for Spaniards for they were not able to prove themselves better in combat. The Spaniards failed to prove themselves superior in combat, showing that European weapons and tactics were not always effective against determined and strategic native resistance. 2 years, 11 months, and 6 days, the voyage around the world lasted. The journey started on September 20, 1519, and the expedition ended on September 6, 1522. The expedition was ordered by King Philip II of Spain, after whom the Philippines had earlier been named by Villalobos. The victory died in July 1564, but the Audiencia and Loves de Legazpi completed the preparation for the expedition. So King Philip II of Spain ordered the expedition to colonize new territories, and Ruy Lopez de Villalobos has already named the Philippines after him in 1543. The Viceroy Luis de Velasco planned the expedition but died on July 15, 1564. So the Audiencia and Lopez de Legazpi continued the preparations. This led to Legazpi's successful colonization of the Philippines in 1565. A chief of Bohol Island named Catonao gave information to Miguel Lopez about Cebu and accompanied Lopez as a guide. A Bohol chief named Catonao provided Miguel Lopez de Legazpi with valuable information about Cebu, including its leaders and trade conditions. He also accompanied Legazpi as a guide, helping him navigate the region and establish contact with the locals, which led to the Spanish colonization of Cebu in 1565. Lopez de Legazpi expedition anchored off the Indian Rajanate of Cebu in 13 February 1565 but did not put ashore due to the opposition from natives. So on February 13, 1565, Miguel Lopez de Legazpi's expedition anchored off the coast of Cebu, which was ruled by the Indianized Rajanate of Cebu under Raja Topas. However, the natives opposed the Spanish arrival, refusing to let them land due to past conflicts with the Spaniards, especially Magellan's failed attempt to colonize Cebu in 1521. On 22 February 1565, the expedition reached the island of Samar and made a blood compact with Datu Urao. On February 22, 1565, Miguel Lopez de Legazpi expedition reached Samar Island, where they meet Datu Urao, a local chieftain. To establish friendship and alliance, they perform a blood compact or sunduguan, a traditional Filipino ritual symbolizing trust and mutual respect between two parties. The Spaniards then proceeded to Limasawa and were received by Datu Bancao, then to Bohol, where they befriended Datu Sikatuna or Catonao and Raja Sigala. On March 16, 1565, Lopez de Legazpi made a blood compact with Datu Sikatuna. After leaving Samar, the Spaniards proceeded to Limasawa, where they were welcomed by Datu Bancao. They then traveled to Bohol, where they befriended Datu Sikatuna, Datu Catonao, and Raja Sigala. On March 16, 1565, Lopez de Legazpi and Datu Sikatuna performed a blood compact or sunduguan, symbolizing their friendship and alliance, the first recorded treaty between the Filipinos and Spaniards. On 27 April, the expedition returned to Cebu and landed there. Raja Topas challenged the Spaniards but was overpowered. So on April 27, 1565, Lopez de Legazpi's expedition returned to Cebu and successfully landed. The Raja Topas, the ruler of Cebu, challenged the Spaniards, but his warriors were overpowered by Spanish firearms and military tactics. After being defeated, Raja Topas later negotiated peace, leading to the formal Spanish colony. The Spaniards established a colony naming the settlements Villa del Santísimo Nombre de Jesus, town of the Most Holy Name of Jesus, after an image of Santo Niño in one of the native houses. So after defeating Raja Topas, the Spaniards established a colony in Cebu and named the settlement Villa del Santísimo Nombre de Jesus, or town of the Most Holy Name of Jesus. The name was inspired by the image of Santo Niño, or child Jesus, which they found in one of the native house, believed to be the same image Magellan had given to Raja Mabon's wife in 1521. This event marked starts of Spanish rule and Christianity's strong influence in the Philippines. Recopilación de Leyes de los Reinos de las Indias, or compilation of laws on Royals Island in the Indies, popularly known as Leyes de Indias or Law of the Indies, was used by Spain to rule its extensive possessions to the Philippines. So the laws of Indies were rules Spain used to govern its colonies, including the Philippines. At the first, they controlled the land and the people through the Conmendia system, where Spanish officials, comenderos, collected taxes and forced labor from Filipino exchange for supposed protection and education. Encomenda, administrative unit for the purpose of exacting tribute from the natives and to use the personal services for the king pretends for slavery. So they could get or collect tribute and demands forced labor in exchange for supposed protection and religious education. Encomendero undertook ways to look after the well-being of his people and educate them with Spanish norms, and conduct 1/4 of the total collection was given to him. Spanish official who managed an encomenda was responsible for the welfare of the natives, spreading Spanish culture and Christianity, and collecting taxes or tribute. 1/4 of the total tribute collected as his share. Mesa de Barangay takes the tribute and gives it comendero. Local native leader responsible for collecting tributes from his barangay or village and giving them to the encomendero. Provincial government system replaced the encomenda because the encomenda was abused within the Spaniards, overtaxing and mistreating the natives.
Spanish conquest of the island. During the Spanish conquest of the Philippines, the Spanish government established a system administration to manage the island. This was organized into two types administrative unit, Alcaldean mayor and congrementos. Alcaldean mayor refers to provinces where peace had already been established by the Spanish. The alcalde mayor was responsible for maintaining peace and order, collecting taxes, and ensuring that people followed Spanish laws. Corregimientos, or territories, were areas that had not yet been fully pacified or controlled by the Spanish. Pueblo, or town, refers to a town or village within a province. The provinces in the Philippines were divided into pueblos, each its own local administration and leaders. Gobernadoselos, or town leaders, were local leaders in charge of administering the pueblo. They were responsible for managing the people in a specific town or village. Typically, gobernadoreselos came from the principalia, which were the prominent and influential families of the area. Principalia, or prominent families, refers to the upper class, land-owning and influential family and community. These were educated individuals who could read, write, and speak Spanish. Because of their educations and knowledge of Spanish, the principalia were often chosen by the Spanish to assist in governing their communities. Spanish conquest of the islands, gubernatorial powers were made possible through Royal Audiencia, a group of officials who advised the governor and handled legal matters to support Spanish rule. Residencia, a process where former officials were reviewed for their action to ensure they governed properly. Visitador General, an official sent to inspect the oversee the work and local leaders, ensuring they followed the rules. Archbishop and clergy, the Catholic Church, where it had a lot of influence, helped maintain order and encourage loyalty to Spanish rule. Subordinate public official, lower level official who helped carry out the governor order and manage local areas. This system helped the Spanish maintain control over the islands and keep the rule in place. During the Spanish conquest of the Philippines, the Spanish government imposed several taxes and systems to control the local population and support their rule. Tribute, Every family, including the husband, wife, and children, had to pay a set of amount, typically 8 reales or 1 peso as a form of tax. Half of the tribute. Unmarried men and women were required to pay half of tribute amount since they didn't have a family to support. Cedula tax. This replaced the tribute system. Every adult male was required to pay a personal tax symbolized by a cedula, which was government-issued identification and proof of tax payment. Polo, forced labor. This system required men to work for the Spanish government for 40 days each year. This was a form of forced labor that helped build infrastructure, maintain Spanish control over the island. Polesta, or worker. The individuals who were required to work under the polo system, they had to perform labor for the Spanish government, typically in construction or public work. Fala or exemption fee. Those who didn't want to participate in polo could pay an exception fee to avoid the mandatory labor. Bandala. This was a system that required each province to sell certain products to the government at fixed price. Provinces had to meet specific quotas, and the goods were often needed for Spanish colonial purposes. This system were used by the Spanish to extract resources and control the Filipino population during their rule. Towards the Hispanizations of the natives, Redición. This was the process of resettling local people into area organized by the Spanish called poblaciones. The goal was to gather the native population in specific town where they could be more easily controlled, taxed, and Christianized. Poblacion. A poblacion was a Spanish-style town center. It was usually designed around a rectangular plaza with important buildings like the church and convent on one side. The tribunal or town court and the houses of Spanish officials were located nearby. This was the new structure of town to align with Spanish way of organizing communities. These efforts were part of the Spanish strategy to control the people, spread Christianity, and enforce Spanish custom. In Spanish colonial society in the Philippines, the social classes were based on ancestry and birthplace. Españoles, people with both parents from Spain, they were at the top of society. Españoles Peninsulares, Spaniards born in Spain, they were seen as the highest rank and often held to top job. Españoles Insulares, Spaniards born in the Philippines, they were respected but considered lower than those born in Spain. Mestizos, mestizas, people with one Spanish parent and one Filipino parent. Mestizos and dissangle were of mixed Spanish and Chinese ancestry. They rank higher than native Filipinos but lower than full Spaniards. Mestizos de Español, these were mestizos with more Spanish heritage rank higher than others with mixed ancestry. Indios or Indios, naturales, native Filipino with no Spanish or Chinese ancestry. They were at the bottom of the social hierarchy. In short, the more Spanish blood you had, the higher rank with native Filipino at the lowest level.
Librong pag-aaralan ng mga Tagalog ng wikang Kastila or book that the Tagalog should study to learn Spanish. First published Tagalog book. Cebu, established the first basic education. Archbishop Domingo de Salazar ordered that every town was to have one school for boys and one school for girls. Subject taught in basic education. Catechism, reading and writing in dialect, music, the rudiments of arithmetic, trades and industries. University of San Ignacio, first founded university for boys. Two kinds of school for girls. First, colegio or regular school, beaterio or combined school, and nunnery. Christiana en Lengua Española by Tagala is the earliest catechetical book printed south to explain the importance of Christ, chastity, and devotion to God in the vernacular. Passion, written in verse and chanted during the Lent, depicted the life and passion of Jesus Christ. Gaspar Aquino de Belen is the wrote the first Tagalog Passion. Father Mariano Pilapil wrote the second Passion or Passionum Genesis, and this was more preferred. Retablo is the highest part inside the church. Jesus Christ is represented in various forms: Santo Niño as a child, Nazareno, Santo Entero while placed inside a sepulchre, Cristo Resucitado is resurrected Christ, Santo Cristo or Christ of the Cross. Misa de Aguinaldo or Mass of the Gift, the beginning of joyous celebration and popularly known as Simbang Gabi. Misa de Gallo or Mass of the Rooster, midnight mass on Christmas Eve. Panunuluyan, a religious play which reenacts the deserts of Joseph and Mary, for an inn has also been observed in some parishes prior to the midnight mass. Flores de Mayo or Flowers of May, where devotees offer flowers every day at the church altar to honor the Blessed Mother. Santa Cruz de Mayo or Santa Cruzan is a procession held to commemorate the finding of the Holy Cross by Empress Helena and Emperor Constantine. Sociedad Económica de los Amigos del País, or Economic Society of the Friends of the Country, founded by Governor General Basco. This society helped much in the agricultural development of the country. Wheat products of the Philippines, like cotton, abaca, silk, pina, and juicy. Chinese in the Philippines. Sanglay called to Chinese during Spanish times. Shang and Lei, traveling merchants. Pacto de Retro is a Chinese mestizos were able to acquire land, a contract under which the borrower who conveyed his land to the lender could repurchase it for same amount of money that he had received. More Europeans in the islands. On October 5, 1762, Manila fell into British hands, after a while flag hosted at Fort Santiago. 3 governors of Manila during the British occupation. Number 1, Archbishop Rojo. Number 2, Oider Simon de Anda. Number 3, Honorable Dawson Drake.